Now we're on to the male reproductive system. These are two of the same models, but viewed a little differently. This one, if I pull off the urinary bladder, then you can kind of see that looks somewhat similar to what you're studying on your lab notes. The easiest way to do this is to memorize how does the gamete get out, because the reproductive system is just making a gamete. So the gamete, or the sperm, is going to be formed in the testes. Testes then goes into the epididymis, and then the epididymis turns into the ductus deferens. But here you're going to see blood vessels and everything else, so you don't see a clear version of the epididymis and ductus deferens. So what you have to do is think about it. There's going to be a tube that's going to run all the way along, and then up here, if you look right there, there's going to be a tube that runs up and around, and then around to the back. That's going to be a seminal vesicle. It runs around, so that's going to be the end of the ductus deferens, and it's going to lead into the ejaculatory duct, and the ejaculatory duct is within the prostate gland. So this is kind of tricky when you look at this model because it is three-dimension, and you can see on the other side right here, that's the other side of the prostate gland with the ejaculatory duct leading into it. Right above the prostate is going to be the urinary bladder. And that part of the urethra going through the prostate is your prostatic urethra. Below it, below the prostate, is going to be the bulbourethral gland, but in this model, you just can't see it. And then after the bulbourethral gland, it's going to go into the penile urethra, and the penile urethra is right there. And the muscle on top of it is going to be the corpus cavernosum. And the corpus spongiosum is where the penile urethra is running through. And the tip of the penis is called the glans of the penis. And you might have wondered why I have this other model here. This other model is important because you can see the layer surrounding the testes is the tunica albuginea. Then there's a layer surrounding that, and this white layer right there, called the tunica vaginalis. And when the testes descend through the inguinal canal, it gets invaginated or wrapped around by another membrane. That is why the testes has a tunica vaginalis that surrounds it, and the tunica albuginea surrounds the testes. And if you look at the ovary, there's also a tunica albuginea surrounding the ovaries. And in the skin that surrounds the testes is the scrotum. Then you can see the epididymis. And here, in a lot more detail, you can see the blood vessels, the artery, and the ductus deferens all wrapped up in connective tissue. And you can clearly make out the spermatic cord. So on this model, you're going to focus on the layers and the spermatic cord. And just like with the other one, if you wanted to, you can make out all the sagittal section of it where it kind of comes through. You can see that's kind of the back of the ductus deferens. That's part of the ejaculatory duct running through the prostate gland. There's your urinary bladder. But here you can see the prostatic urethra in detailed. You can see the bulbourethral gland or Cowper's gland, and there you can see it. This part of the urethra runs through a membrane. So after the prostatic urethra, you have a small portion called the membranous urethra before it goes into the penile urethra with the corpus cavernosum, corpus spongiosum, and glans of the penis. And before you ask, why do I have to memorize penile urethra, membranous urethra, prostatic urethra? In the male urinary system and male reproductive system, different things and different symptoms can happen depending on which part of the urethra is involved.